we are doing, this is a panel called Unlock Your Inner Performer.
That's what we're here for.
I wrote this. So this is a panel. We're all professional performers. We're going to talk about who we are and why we are that in some form of capacity. And this is going to be a panel about kind of taking your skills, your experiences, and trying to kind of like push through some of those invisible or societal barriers that prevent you from just like being silly, being yourself, and performing. I didn't know if you were doing the ASL.
I'm doing like the mime.
Yeah. Performing. And it's about just trying to make sure that you can break through some of those barriers and express yourself and perform on the small levels, like with your friends in tabletop games, mine, and Twitch streaming, and in theater, and all those things.
In court.
All the way up to, and in court. And in court, the #1 performance avenue of the Americas.
Depends on where most of you go to jail or not. So you better hope I'm good at it.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
What?
Yeah. So this is going to be about like how we approach that, and how we kind of come to that through our personal professional careers, and how we also do it now professionally, which is crazy. So we'll start at the end, and we'll just work our way through it, just talk about who you are and why are you here?
Why are you relevant?
Well, until you described what this panel was about, I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, Noah booked me for something, so I was on time.
Yeah, you can say Noah booked me.
Noah booked me is the short answer. Hi, I'm Ryan. Everybody online calls me Tappy. I have a theater degree. I have training in public speaking. I've been a Twitch partner for 7.5 years, streaming for 8.5 years. It's been my full-time job for 5 years, and I've been making content since 2010. By any measurable metric, I've done better than I deserve. So, I don't know. I've failed up for about a decade.
Yeah, and it's not stopping here.
It's
Fail up 2023.
10 years of being a failed actor,
Yeah.
10 years of being a successful streamer.
Yeah.
It all levels out.
Yeah.
So.
My name's Noah Downs, or my lawyer friend online. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also I'm a lawyer and I'm also an actor too. I'm also a professional GM. Or GM, depending on what game system you're using. I am also the GM of the Forgotten Pats podcast. It's available every single Monday. It's an Amnesia campaign. It's in the 5e system, and it's phenomenal and wonderful. And I play every role that's not somebody else.
Quote, Noah Downs.
Also, I do need to give a disclaimer, just in case you say a legal thing. I am a lawyer, but I'm not yet your lawyer.
Slow down.
I am a lawyer. But I'm not yet your lawyer. Unless I literally am. And anything that I say on this panel, if it's legal stuff, is not legal advice, it's legal information. So don't try this advice at home, go to a friend's house.
Don't try it, kids. Hi, I'm Liz. I'm a professor of scenic design and technology. I am the technical director at Virginia's oldest theater. So I've been doing theater in one way or another for over 15 years. Mostly on the technical side, but I do a lot of performance and art, so that's me.
Hello, I'm Chapman. I do improv, and I'm the characters on the Code Pro Roll podcast, which I make with this guy here. We've been doing it for 4 years now?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, hello.
Chapman.
I'm Alon, the Dungeon Meowster. I am a professional game master. I've been performing at conventions for 4 or 5 years. I've been doing podcasts for 4 or 5 years. Professional GMs or longer for hundreds and hundreds of games. I think I was running something like 130 games a year for a handful of years there at local breweries and other small businesses to create spaces for people to learn how to play tabletop. And all that stuff. So yeah, good news. So hopefully we're all so qualifiedly here, just like you all are. So this panel, I'm going to say real quick. We're starting with kind of like walking through how we approach this, what we do, and think best practices. But we are going to get to a Q&A section. So if you do have questions during it, just hold on to them and If you're like me, forget them and then try to remember them later. If you have something to write down, great. But otherwise, you can always just whisper it to somebody next to you and hope that works. But we are going to start by just doing a quick. I think one of the things that is super helpful is just to talk about how do we get into the mindset of performance? Everybody kind of does it a different way. I will start and we'll kind of just opposite our way back down. But a lot of people have theater background. I have an improv background. I did a lot of improv comedy. Sometimes I say improv tragedy work, which is a great experience if you are improv to do that. But and I'm a big advocate and a big believer in doing warm-ups before you do anything. Even if it's just fun things with your friends, I'm a big advocate of doing warm-ups. There's lots of improv warm-ups out there if you want to do I was going to say big, small, but small, big, big, small. Big, small. So I'm a big advocate of doing warm-ups. The key for warm-ups for improv, I'm sure that there's a lot of crossover for theater, but is to do things where it's very extravagant, like you're making yourself as loud as possible, or as big as possible, or as silly as possible. So when you're performing, or in just entertaining your friends with a joke, it seems less insane to you to be silly because you've expanded the boundaries of what silly is, and now you can be here very comfortably, even though that's kind of weird still. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of warm-ups.
Yeah, so I also have the improv background. So I'm seeing is I really believe in doing warm-ups, and just I like to have a thing that's I can kind of transition from my day-to-day life into okay, now I'm in the performance zone. I like to start with things that get my body moving a little bit, and then just games. You just creating a game that gets you into performance mind.
What's one of your favorite warm-ups, Kevin?
I always just go shake it out when you start recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. And then I like stuff where Alpha's been doing a great job. Where it's you are doing a little scene you make up, and then somebody has you change something about that scene, and you just have to think on your feet. You're all right, what does this mean to me? And now I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, can everybody in the back hear us?
Yay! We'll continue to project. Yeah. Liz!
So coming from more of an academic background, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of character building beforehand, but just to kind of get into the space of it, for my character, I come up with a leading action, what's called a leading action. It's something that the character does absent-mindedly that kind of defines them physically. So whenever I start talking, I talk with my hands. As my friends have described it as I talk like I have wet nails. So if someone wants to do an impression of me, they just kind of start doing this. And that's my leading action. I think Alon, you kind of do a squat.
I do.
You squat a lot,
all
so
the time.
on.
It's a little power position, and it makes me feel like I'm grounded. I'm usually too far away from the ground, and I'm scared.
You down there a little bit.
Yeah.
You also talk with your hands a bit, but yours is a backup hand out.
Right.
You do this. You do this a lot.
It's a legal backhand.
I'm clearing the room.
Yes, you are making space for yourself. So just coming up with that helps me literally step into the character. In theater, you step on stage and leave everything else behind. So you're stepping into it and you start with your leading action. Yeah.
For me, thinking more, I used to do much more on stage. Ooh, you got me in my head about that. Oh, stop it!
You notice how much you do it, though.
It's so annoying. But back when I was doing much more stage work, like when I was running the Richmond Shakespeare Festival, I would do a lot more of the physical warm-ups, do the vocal warm-ups, because the cliche is this is your instrument. This is what you have, this is your tool. And so when you are performing, this is how you're expressing that inner whatever you are, character, being, anything. As I've transitioned more in my life into, obviously I don't go to court as much anymore because I represent content creators and businesses in this space. It's awesome. but it's more of the vocal warm-up and the reactionary kind of thing. So kind of being ready to settle into any kind of character. So for example, when I'm getting ready to record for Forgotten Pacts, and I want to embody my DM PC, my DM player character, Sabishi, the Panda Warrior, who's a chef. He's awesome, and his voice is a little bit like this. And so I'll talk like that. I'll kind of get in the mindset of him, think through some of what he's done. I'll listen to some of my prior recordings if I have the time to do that. But in general, because as a GM, I'm going to be playing so many different characters, it's just a matter of going through all the different vocal warm-ups and physical warm-ups so that even though I'm not playing for an audience necessarily with pre-recorded audio, I'm physically standing. I record at a standing desk because it helps me to move around. I'll let my audio engineer figure out all the differences in volume later. Sorry, Gabe. And it allows me to get really physical with the character. So for example, if I'm swapping from Sabishi to like an old crone, I need to be able to kind of move around like that. So preparing is really preparing my space and my tools as much as preparing my background for the characters.
I don't know if anybody else can sympathize or empathize, but I got really bad social anxiety. And so ultimately doing stuff like even like this, every single day I go live on Twitch for 7 hours at a stretch. And right before I hit the go live button is just about the most anxiety inducing. And I felt that it's a very anxiety inducing situation to push through. I felt it during theater. The lights go out, the lights come up, you're about to make your first step onto the stage. That feels like kind of low-key terrible, and that's the barrier I have to break through every single day. And so all the training that I've gone through over the years, whether it was for theater or television or YouTube or Twitch, or now, we've got some spots where I'm doing some podcast stuff, I'm doing guest hosting stuff, D&D stuff. It's always the same threshold that I've got to break through, where I'm just sweating through my clothes and having a minor panic attack every single day. But it's the preparation and the training that make you take that first step, and then you get into it and it's fun again.
Yeah.
And I find that for me, it's kind of the warm up, the preparation for that is kind of translated across all those different mediums. So it's a little bit of physical warm up, like everyone was saying. Whatever that is for you. For some people, it's waking up in the morning and going to the gym before they stream, or doing wacky stretches, tongue twisters, anything like that that kind of gets the instrument ready. For me, I also mentally have to get in the space. Sometimes when I was on tour, that was listening to the right kind of music that would kind of put me in the right headspace. Listening to the preparation of talking to people for 7 hours straight, so I'm listening to news broadcasts so that I can be up to date on current events, and I practice and rehearse if there's some controversial thing that happened that I know I'm gonna have to talk about. I wanna have the right take. I don't wanna end up, canceled for a flub where I say the wrong thing and it just flies out of my mouth, so I walk through it and I have that conversation with an imaginary chat 2 or 3 times while I'm on a treadmill or making breakfast or in the shower. And that's the same preparation for anything, where it's just kind of like I'm going to listen to the music my character would listen to, or I'm going to do the things I'm going to rehearse, the conversations I'm going to have on screen each day. And then after that, it's the vocal. I wish I was perfect about this, but there are days that you can go into my chat, and when I start the stream at 8:30 in the morning as a not morning person, you can instantly tell, oh, Ryan went to the gym, or at least did scales in the shower, versus the days where I show up sounding like a pack-a-day chain smoker. And I'm like, I got out of bed 15 minutes ago, sorry. This show's gonna be rough for about 45 minutes. I'm streaming here. Yeah. Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Tappy. I'll be playing video games for your pleasure today. Just everyone, I know you're typing in chat, but let's just keep it down. For like a half an hour.
Keep it down. Smoke them if you got it. Keep it down.
About 2 cups of coffee will really hit our stride.
Hashtag sponsored by Madrid.
Right. For me, it's the physical, it's the vocal, and then there's some sort of mental preparation that oftentimes these days could be anything from listening to stand-up to listening to NPR, just kind of prepping myself for whatever curveballs might be coming, and just getting kind of all assets ready for that moment where you have to just lean into it and face the firing squad and hit go live, or take that first step onto the stage, or have your character speak its first lines of the campaign. So.
Yeah, I want to do, because I think that this will be also very helpful to people in the room, is I first want to really quickly, we have 3 open seats up here next to each other. We have 2 open and 2 open right here. If people are sitting down and you on the floor and you want to have a place, I don't want you to have to sit down. You can if you want. I just want to throw that out there. And nobody has to turn and look at them. Well, the next thing that I have is people make their decisions the way they want to. So the other thing is, like, I think it is important to know, we're going to real quick, for people in the room who want to participate in this and the people up here who want to.
Oh God. Okay.
Who of you up here consider yourself to be like a fairly introverted or a very introverted person? Yeah.
I don't want to whip my arm too high because I'm sweating in my armpits right now.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, don't worry, the camera's on you.
You're the closest to it.
Who in this room and off this panel considers themselves a very extroverted person?
Can it be both?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who in this room doesn't like to raise their hands?
Yeah. Armpit sweat, anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, we're all in this together. So, please use the other beige though. So I think it is important to know that, like, the people who you see performing in front of you doing the thing, obviously we're all different people. We have all different backgrounds. We come at this from different ways of life. Some of us come at this because we were good at it. Some of us come at this because it's somehow cathartic in some way to, like, prove value to ourselves.
Some of us have a constant need to feel validated.
Guys.
I was the only child. Tell me I'm doing well.
Yeah. And so I do think it's important to remember for you all while you're performing that there's no right reason to, like, be vulnerable in front of friends. It's just one of those things, or complete strangers. It is one of those things. It's just like there doesn't have to be a right reason as long as you are enjoying it. Sometimes enjoying it can feel like pushing that on button and feel it sweating profusely. But as you kind of get into the swing of it, hopefully you get more out of it, and your friends do. You have a collaborative experience. Speaking of collaborative experiences, we're going to real quick give, like, as performers, what would be your piece of advice, like a best practice, something that you would give to anybody, or even like your past self to have as a performance piece of advice? And we can start with your answer.
Sure. I've got a real easy one. One of the biggest notes or criticisms I got from teachers early on when I was getting my theater degree was how in my head I was, and so it made everything that I was doing on stage stiff and rigid, because it was like there was a little director inside my head that was getting to me before the actual director of the play could get to me. And I've found comfort in this because there's that positive validation and that positive reinforcement of during Scream after my failed acting career. I got into streaming and I felt kind of just defeated about not being able to make it in the, like, I didn't move anywhere where there was work. I didn't put enough work in. I recognize that now looking back, but it's a very woe is me flat feeling. And so I got into content creation, and there the character was me, and I'd done the homework because I'd lived my life. And so the scary part was at that point I have to start imbuing these videos and these streams with real, honest, sincere, vulnerable parts of actual me, not even like a character I created. And so I didn't really start seeing success in my content creation career until in front of hundreds of people, I started to really, like, open up and imbue it with genuine, sincere, sometimes like terrifying to share things. And I'm not talking about like getting on screen and like trauma dumping and treating chat like they're your therapist, but I mean, like,
Don't do that.
Like I'm a dad, I'm a husband. In 2018, I was 2 rent checks away from being bankrupt, trying to make content creation happen before it finally caught. And I try to make it entertaining, and it's always upbeat. I'm there to be a safe haven and an escapist place for them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't talk about very real stuff and really open up about everything from like mental health to like, I talked to them through getting a vasectomy. And I didn't realize that there was like still stigma attached to that. And so I had people who would, can I hit you with DMs or whispers? I want to know more, because they were like scared to talk about it out loud. And I didn't even realize that was a thing. So for me, it's whether it's a D&D character, whether it's your content creation career, whether you're trying to be in, I wish I'd known this back during when I was trying to act. But the more honest and sincere that nugget of yourself is that you put into whatever it is that you're building, people, whether you're doing it for fun or doing it for money, man, people will gravitate to that like moths to the flame. Like it's such a short commodity in the world that people just instantly. And you'll see that with like TikTokers, that you'll see the one who's fake and then you'll see the one who's really into it. You're like, well, I know which one I'm following.
Yeah.
So that's the hard one that's taken me decades to sort of lean into.
Yeah.
Is that it's not only okay to be yourself, even if you're not okay with yourself, but like you'll genuinely find that the more earnest you are with what you put into it, the more people will gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Stream Daddy.
I don't want to follow that. But for me, it's whenever I'm performing, one of the original pieces of feedback that I ever got when I was acting for my career, put myself through law school, was don't force it. Like when you are embodying a character, you might feel the need to say, oh, this character is this. This character is creepy. This character is happy. This character is good at this. Don't force it. Let your character be informed by what you can do. Obviously, in D&D, in tabletop gaming, in streaming, you're entering in sort of an escape, unless it's your full-time job. It's an escape, and so there's an element of, I want this to be as different from who I am as it can be at times. But also, your own personal experience, and let your personal experience inform what you're embodying in that character that you're putting out there. You'll know if you're forcing it, because all of a sudden everything will be like nails on a chalkboard. It's going to kind of grind to a halt. People aren't really going to go along with you. It's not as collaborative. So the communication aspect of working through these issues and trying to figure out like how to embody this character, this performer, is incredibly important. Do what's natural, and then that'll help you expand your instrument, and you'll learn new things about yourself and also be able to embody great things.
Mine's probably fairly close to Kathy. I have really terrible stage fright. And a lot of that derived from like fear of judgment. I've fairly recently come to the conclusion people want you to succeed in life on stage. People want to be entertained. They want you to be doing a good job on stage because it's for their benefit as well. Overall, I don't think anyone came here specifically like, I really hope that this person trips and falls on her face. If you did, please don't tell me that. But yeah, overall, people want you to succeed, and once they leave the room, they're not going to remember all the little things you did wrong. You're going to remember that, yeah, and you're going to lay awake at night and be like, I shouldn't have done this thing slightly differently. They're not. You're thinking about yourself way more than they're thinking about you. They're busy thinking about themselves. So just, people want you to succeed.
My thing is find a community of people who you trust and like perform with them and act like just make a game of it like as much as you can. But also like make sure if you feel like there's something that you need to be a better performer, like vocalize that so that the people you trust, so that like they can work with you, because like if you can't grow if you kind of like just keep everything like under a lid. So you really gotta like talk with people you trust and make sure you trust each other and push yourself.
Yeah, and my piece of advice that I would give to anybody who's looking to be a better performer in their personal life or professionally, and what I wish I could have told myself when I was younger, is like, keep a really rigid schedule, if possible, very helpful for me, to force yourself to continue to perform as regularly as possible and fail as fast as you can. That is the piece of advice that I would give for sure. I think, speed run your failure, 1000%.
Set a new PR.
I heard it, and it's true. Speed run that failure. Make your mistakes as fast as you can. I recommend this because I think that the biggest, I know every performer at some point runs into the fear of failure. If it's not like your quintessential first one, And so if you just fail a lot quickly and find out, you know what, this isn't that bad. This really isn't that bad.
Failures are awesome.
Yeah.
You learn something from every failure. Hopefully.
And so I would go back and I would say, like, don't be cautious. Just like home run swing every time.
Yep.
Break some glass windows on the neighbor's house.
Don't do that.
It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphoric windows, and when they come over to talk to your parents, blame the kid next door.
That's okay.
Mitchell Gann in Atlanta. I'm sorry for blaming you. But no, that's fine. Fail forward. Fail often. Fail, especially speed run your failure. Yes.
I also want to reiterate this rigid schedule thing does work for a lot of people. Like, that's one of your best pieces of
That's the only
advice.
thing that keeps that train on the tracks.
It's so good.
Because if you don't show up to work, then you can't work. And then, so.
If it's not a job for you, if your goal is not professional content creating,
why not?
be kind to yourself. That's a piece of it. But if it is something that you're trying to pursue professionally, have that schedule. If you're bad with that, especially, like, try to drive that home and make it be your god. Pray to the schedule.
Yeah.
And every morning over a cup of coffee.
I had a streamer friend who got into a call with me, and they were bemoaning the fact that I had a streak of, like, very profitable weeks, one right after the other. And then they were like, oh, well, we're about the same size channel. I don't understand why you're 4Xing me right now. And I was like, you took 2 weeks off and you didn't tell anybody you were going to do it. And that kind of like escalated into a fight where this person's response was, you're saying I don't deserve success. And I was like, that's not what I said. I said it's hard to catch lightning in a bottle if you don't buy a bottle and go stand in a fucking store.
Yeah, and hold it up
Right.
with metal in your other hand.
Right. Yeah. And so that's like, you gotta show up for it. You gotta meet opportunity halfway.
Mm-hmm.
I was real bad about that in my 20s, and I was terrible about
I
that.
don't even want to get into another panel. We're going to real quick go into for those of you who are interested in it, as performers and as people who are pursuing at some level of performance, what is it about performance that for us has led us to these paths of performing professionally? Like, what's that the impetus? What was the catalyst? Just to give people some ideas of, like, if you're having these thoughts of, like, is this for me? You can get some ideas from us of, like, hopefully that reaffirms you and or says, wait, you know what? Now I know it's not for me. But I can go first on that one, and when we can record others later. But I for performance, like, Liz, you want to go first?
Thank you.
Time. I, like many people here at any convention, was a fucking nerd growing up, and I didn't have a lot of friends. I played Dungeons & Dragons in the basement, my Latin teacher's basement. We talked about this last time. I never thought about how insidious that was, because you weren't allowed to talk about it. But we were really only playing Dungeons & Dragons. It just was like a satanic panic, and people just, And we were in a Christian school, and it's all about, like, what? We can unpack that trauma later. I've already done it myself. But I played confident characters. I was not a confident person. I eventually was like, why can I not be a confident person? I play these characters and I find confidence in them. Maybe I can do that in myself. And I started to do that. And people would low-key be like, you know what? I've always thought you're really weird, but you were pretty funny. And I lived off of that. It gave me life. It gave me so much energy. And as I started to go to college and started to do some more improv stuff and some stand-up stuff, and started to eat bananas, peel it all on stage just to get a reaction from people, I realized that I feed off of that, not the banana. Well, that too, off the reactions. And I have this I love entertaining. It gives me so much energy, and it made me realize that in my heart of hearts, where I'm most comfortable is actually on stage. As insane as that sounds to I know a lot of people, I kind of slowly made my way to that conclusion. And so that's why I love doing what I do, and I love being able to share it. And it just means so much to me when it connects with I've always said, you only need one. If it connects with one person comes up and goes, man, you know that time when you were kind of unloading a little bit of your religious past trauma and then like put it away, but you know, you at least acknowledged it? I have that same thing, and I really appreciate that you did that. And that, to me, is like, I will hold that for a year and be like, oh, man, that was the best.
Yeah, so I got into this because I had the whole like social anxiety thing, and I still do, but I was like, I gotta do something about this, especially because I want to start playing D&D, and instead of, I don't know, going and playing D&D like a normal person, I just went to improv classes, and yeah, so I kind of like realized I got a lot of energy from just like making people laugh and doing goofy stuff in front of people, and it just kind of snowballed to here. Yeah.
You've let the momentum just carry you.
Yeah.
Chapman, be funny.
Everyone knows every improv person's favorite thing is when someone's like, be funny, and you just be like,
Be funny.
yo, what up? I'm funny as fuck.
I'm so happy. Okay. All right, Liz.
I forgot what the question was. That shit right out my brain.
How did you end up here? What caused you to be here?
There's a long string of unfortunate events.
What's your, oh.
She met me. All downhill.
I get some sad music playing.
I don't know, money, people kept paying me to do this.
That's fair.
Again, something that they've reiterated, the community. I was also super awkward in high school, and all the way up to right now, I've been super awkward. But I did theater in high school. I was a technician, and I really just got accepted in the community. I was good at what I did, and that allowed me to go into other circles. I grew my skill set. It was very fulfilling for me to be learning all of these things from all of these amazing like performers and makers. So really just the community is why I did it, and not just the community like on stage, but the people who would come. I work at a very, very old theater in Richmond, Virginia, and we do a holiday show every single year. And some people have been coming since they were babies, and now they are bringing their children to come see this, and it's creating traditions, and I love that I am part of that.
You have a pipeline.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do this baby pipeline case. But yes, the community.
Yikes. Yeah, so we're about 20 minutes ago, I said that I was an only child. So I was an only child, and I really craved the approval of others. And so I was performing my whole life. Like I was playing D&D with friends and whatnot. And I got into high school, and I was like, you know what would be really fun? I'm really good at saxophone. I'm gonna do jazz band. And my mom said, nah, you should be in drama and do drama. I said, no, that's stupid. And so I did jazz band for a year, and then that was the last time I ever played saxophone. Because after that I went into theater. Because I loved theater because one, it gave me an outlet to express myself. I was, I'm a bombastic, outgoing person, but I was also like kind of, bullied as a kid. And that made me want to create connections with people. And so when I was out there on the stage, in the theater, making connections with friends, people that I didn't know before, I was collaboratively telling a story with them. And what was pointed out to me in 9th grade was we were working on a production of As You Like It by Shakespeare. And what was pointed out to me was, this As You Like It, the play is hundreds of years old. But no one has ever done it like we're doing it. And no one will ever do it like we're doing it again. We are telling our version of this story. And yeah, it's a high school theater show. But at the same time, you're creating something new. And from that, I said, okay, well, this is dope. So I continued to work in theater, went to college for it, said, okay, well, I'm not that good at theater, so I went to law school. And then, but diving back into D&D as an outlet of creative expression, I got to create with friends. And it started off with just like, oh, hey, I can sit around the table and collaborate and tell a story that other people are with me and collaboratively telling their parts of the story. And we created this like beautiful like, tree of life of stories. It was amazing. And then I said, you know what? I also am a guy that monetizes my hobbies. And so I did that and created a podcast that we pay for. So, but that is all to say that if you enjoy storytelling, you're just like me. That's why I'm here, because I get to make friends and then tell stories that didn't exist before. That way.
Yeah. Ryan, as a fellow failed thespian, are you sad that you didn't become a lawyer?
It's still not off the table.
That's
No,
true.
we've actually talked about that.
You heard it here first. Objection. Sorry, continue.
Oh no, I came at it all for the wrong reasons, and then kind of backed into doing it for the right ones. I grew up in a high school where bullies were a bad thing. It's like the early '90s in rural, middle flyover state America. And so instead of getting in fist fights, it was just winging wicked insults, and I found that I like making people laugh, and it made people want to beat me up. Well, it made most people want to beat me up less. And then I got into college, and I went through a bad breakup, and I lost like 60 pounds and got 8-pack abs, and went from computer information systems to theater because it was the most self-serving, narcissistic career path that I could think of to validate myself.
Yeah, so
So
you're on the longer fast
I'm
track.
hot now, and I'll go on stage and I'll say things, and people will be like, "I want to have sex with that guy," and I'll be like, "That's great." And that was kind of why I got the degree.
Yeah.
But then like I got out into the world and I was auditioning and I was landing work, but it was like despite myself because I didn't like the process, and I didn't like reading plays. I didn't like going to theater. I just liked working and being told I was good. And then like in 2008 to 2010, the global economy fell apart, and I was like, shit, I'm just a waiter. And then I found content creation on YouTube, and that was the first time where like people would tell me, like my theater friends would tell me, I gotta do it. If I don't do it, it's like not breathing. And I was like, I don't feel that. If this goes away, I'll be just fine. I got into content creation, and that was me writing scripts for YouTube videos while I was waiting tables inside my checkbook in between tables, working for a double shift, and then coming home and getting on Skype with my buddy who was editing the videos we were making until like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then going back to work on 5 hours of sleep because I was like, if I don't do this, I'll go insane. And so we did it for no money for 6 years, and it's only been the last like 4 or 5 that I've made enough money to live, and I'm fortunate to be doing well enough right now to live comfortably.
Yeah.
But it was through that and through the collaborative process that like I had learned the mechanical of it.
Yeah.
But like the content creation aspect of it on YouTube, on Twitch, through podcasting, through D&D, like D&D that we're getting paid to do now, like that kind of stuff now, all those tools that I had that were kind of dormant, but I've been taught and I understood them, but I didn't like internally feel them. Those all came back to the surface, and I used them the right way, and I was like, oh, this is like, there was no money when I started content creating. In 2010, there was no money. And there was hardly any fame. It was a very niche internet community. So it really was for the love of the game at that point. And so at that point, I'm using all those tools to do this all the right way, and I'm meeting like-minded individuals, and collaborative processes start to feel good. And then there's definitely a part of me that's like, if I ever retire from content creation, I'm going straight back to theater, armed differently, knowing that, you know, I'm married, so there's only one person who doesn't want to fuck me.
Yeah.
And I'll go back and actually attempt it the right way and like see if it feels different. So.
Are you ever sad that your 8-pack is now below France because you're on the digital side of things?
Oh God, dude, I'm sitting here going, he's like, you're in frame, and I was like, this was 20 years ago. Like, this is a pony keg.
It's 8-pack. It's out of frame.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys, I wish you could
I'm
see
not
it.
in frame, but I'm shirtless. With great cheese on my abs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I think one of the crazy things with all the stuff we do is like, if you would have told me when we started to pursue trying to create some type of like inclusive community Dungeons and Dragons thing that you could possibly make money doing this, when we started doing it, I would have laughed very hard. It's a very silly thing that unfortunately, like these entertainment things, I mean, the nice thing, going back to like the genuineness and things like that, I've connected with people to a point where this is like a viable career.
Yeah.
And of course, technology has played a massive part in that, but like a big part of that also is just like these communities that have been built around it. But we're going to, real quick, we're going to jump to questions, and we're going to please, they can be about performance, they can be about whether or not you want to get into it, they can be as big or as small as you want it to be, or even away from that if you want to know Taffy's phone number. We can give it to you right now. It's 804. Yeah. So we're gonna go to questions. If you guys don't have questions, we still have plenty more to talk about, but we're gonna start right here.
And we'll repeat the question for the camera too.
Yeah.
So for those of you that difficulty with social skills growing up, when you initially, got started on this journey of picking up those skills, what was it like overcoming that hurdle as you were trying to pick up this particular skill set to just not admit it and having that set of problems?
Yeah, and I'm gonna repeat your question. For those of us who had difficulty with some social skills early on, what were some of the hurdles that we had to overcome early on to like start to move towards what this training has been?
Yeah, like the part that is around acting and improv.
Yeah.
Social skill difficulties plus learning all of this don't tend to go together.
Yeah, and the expounding factors. That social skill, lacking social skills, being uncomfortable in that, and doing a performance doesn't necessarily go together. It doesn't seem like it weaves. So, anybody else?
I really believe in the importance of always just pushing yourself. I mean, I kind of rather took improv classes because I was social everything. And I was like, well, what's the way I can go at this as full force as possible? And so I was like, yeah, all right, let's go do improv classes and throw myself in front of a bunch of people. So yeah, just be okay, I'm gonna do this and just see what happens.
Awful is what the whole process was, in case you're wondering. Still awful. I'd love to call the table right now. It'd be really great, but I feel like it'd be a little bit strange.
I can make that less strange for you.
See, you have friends who'll do it with you. It really helps.
There's a lot of wires down there, Alon.
Liz, it's okay. I'm down here. It's comfy.
It's fine. We're cool. Everything's cool. Everything's fine now.
It's normal.
How are you?
But what really helps me being on stage is being very confident in the information that I have. Rehearse, practice. Not just knowing your lines when you're doing a show, but knowing the material that you're going to present. We kind of talked about this panel beforehand. I'm a little bit better at improv at this point. I'm a little bit more comfortable, but especially when I first started teaching, I made PowerPoint. I rehearsed everything I was going to say. I made myself a script. So if my brain just stopped, which it still does while I'm teaching, it really, really does, I will have something that I can just pick up on. I can just breathe, take a second, and just keep going because I know what I'm going to say already.
And I am an extreme extrovert, so I have no right to weigh on this, but having done this panel in the past, one of the best pieces of advice that I don't think the person who gave the advice is up here right now, was find the people around you who make you really comfortable, who you forget your social anxiety around, and be around them as you're starting to try and do things with them, because they have seen a side of you that the rest of the world hasn't seen, and you're comfortable inherently with that, and so that allows you to kind of break that down.
Also, I want to say there won't be a magical moment where the social anxiety goes away. So don't build yourself up to be looking for that moment, but do kind of realize that your ability to deal with social situations will change, and just appreciate that change as it comes, but don't stress yourself out if it's not coming. Just take your time, relax.
I don't think I had a magical moment of now I'm not completely scared.
Yeah.
It was a very gradual thing, and now looking back, I'm just oh yeah, no, I have grown. I see it. You don't see it in the moment. It's gradual growth.
Even minutes before this panel, I was like Indy trying to take that first step in Last Crusade, where I was just I'm gonna trust something's gonna catch me, and it's that way for performances and podcasts and every single stream 5 days a week. And it's always, I can't remember the last time that I was I am straight out joyful about getting started. I'm always happy to stream. I'm always happy to talk about food in a podcast or whatever. But ultimately, that moment of it starting up is just, for whatever reason, it's still ice down my back. And that doesn't go away, but the muscle memory, like trusting that you've trained yourself to succeed, so that when you do hit that first step, and you go, I didn't fall, I can keep going now. And then it just, after that, for me at least, in my journey, I found that after I get the first couple of steps in, you just got to force yourself to step out on stage and say the first line. And then after that, if you've trained well, the muscle memory will take over, and you're almost kind of watching with everybody at that point.
I don't have a lot of social anxiety. I'm very lucky about that. Most of my time growing up, the reason why I was like ostracized is because people think I'm weird, which has almost all my views. So the one thing that is really helpful for me though, and I know that a lot of people recommend this, and my therapist and stuff, is journaling and keeping some pieces of like, here's some key things and here's some feelings that I felt in this moment, and like if you keep that over time, you can look back and go like, oh snap, even though I didn't notice it, I'm growing. And I think that's always like really reassuring and really nice. Yeah. Other question? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just one more thing, because this is kind of a technical note. In theater, whenever you are rehearsing a show, you are doing the same motions over and over again for a reason. You have been assigned blocking, which is how you're walking around the stage for a reason, so that you can put that muscle memory into it. There have been times people have just like straight up not known their lines off the stage. They could not tell you what their lines are, but as soon as they start walking the path that is the blocking, it just triggers it, and you remember, and you just keep going. Which is why like the leading action is very important. You get into that character, and you just know what they are going to say next.
The last role I played before I quit was Iago in Othello. And I remember the first night that I went to perform it, like rehearsals had been a blast. I was having fun with everybody. The cast was great. I was having a really good time. And then asses got in seats, and the house lights went down, and I went, this piece of shit has like 36 pages of dialogue, and they're all supposed to be in my head right now. I can't possibly do this. I can't possibly do that. Lights are up.
Yep.
And I walked out, and I never missed a beat. Was never convinced that I would. I was like, at some point, I was like, I'm gonna go up, and you can't ad-lib Shakespeare. Shakespeare didn't have any. Dude, it was fine. And anywhere I've looked.
Bro, it's all good.
Bro, it's all good. It's all good.
Your husband's dead, but
Listen, he was problematic. He had issues.
he's on his way out.
Right. So
To be or not.
So ultimately, yeah, like it's when we say training, we're not saying like, oh, you got to quit your job and go to school and become performers. We're just, it's that whether you pick it up from a book or pick it up from a TED Talk or a YouTube video, you see a thing where you go, I feel like that would work for me, and you just kind of practice that, and then that.
Or a panel at MAGFest.
Or a panel at MAGFest, exactly. And if you hear something that resonates, you take that and you put it in your toolbox, and you go, the next time I'm creating whatever it is I'm about to do, that becomes something that you can use to almost iron that anxiety out of you, like to beat that anxiety out of you. I got a very adversarial sort of temperament with that, where it's like, F you, I'm walking out on stage, whether you want me to or not, angry voice in the back of my head. It's just, and I'm out on stage, and I'm like, I won again. So.
Did it. Other questions? I know there's right there on near the aisle. Yes. Yes, left hand.
Yeah. So I DM a table of people who have trouble, getting into character, right?
Yeah.
That affects me.
Yes.
And I'm playing every other role. So but when things are good, it's good, right? Like you have a table for like coaxing people out of shells.
Yeah. So you GM a table. You have some trouble with your players getting into character, and obviously as the GM, it affects you and how much you can get into character. So you're asking for some hot tips. As somebody who GMs open tables of random players at various levels of experience all the time, my number one hot tip of 2023.
2023. Number one tip.
To make sure that you, I call it grounding my players and their characters. And what I do is like on warm-ups, after I've done mine, I sit there and I go around the table and have my players introduce their characters, and then I ask them some things about their characters that maybe they haven't really thought about before. I go like, okay, so your character just said your favorite color is purple. Do you have like a foundational memory or something that like landed you on liking purple? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I just like purple. And you're like, okay, cool. Is your character, so you're adventuring for these reasons. Is that something that like, you know, is it an extension of your family class? Or is it, you know, and I'll go and I'll start to ask these questions and get them to think about some of the things in their character that maybe they haven't thought about before. Because what I've found running this hundreds and hundreds of times is that people then start to actually like really connect with who their character is and how they're playing it. And so that's my number one piece of advice. I use it all the time. It's not easy to think of those questions. So sometimes like write some, you know, do one of those like, the best thing is like, I haven't really created an OC. I know that sounds insane from somebody who looks like me, but it's fair. But those questionnaires that are like 100 questions by your OC or whatever, you can have those like as references, and then you have some like really base ones that's hard for you to come up with questions in real time. But as you practice more, it's going to be really easy. And I promise you, your grounds players really well. It's really awesome. It's not going to launch them right into like they're going to be dancing as the bard or whatever, but or maybe it will. But it will as you do it over time, they'll more and more like fall into it.
What I also like to do with that is, one, I refer to my players on the table by their character names in case you're not already doing that.
Yeah.
I refuse to refer to them as anything else, unless they specifically ask, because that would be rude otherwise. And then I also like to do the spotlight method, which is something that Milan champions a lot, which is like if somebody's having trouble either speaking up or getting into character or really getting in, is to say, hey, so-and-so, what are you doing right now? Like thinking about what they're doing in a moment, because, hey, we're in a tavern. What are you doing? Because they got to think about that kind of thing. It forces them to live in the moment of their character.
Yeah.
Another tip, just also depending on what kind of campaign you're doing and how much of it in like a involved GM you are in creating character backstories from session 0. I know I run a lot of amnesia campaigns where getting in character, and basically you start off a campaign where your players don't know who they are or why they are there. It's a lot of fun. And they have to figure out who they are as they go along. So getting in character during those is really difficult for them, especially in the early ones. The key is to ask them questions, give them a lot of things to find, because as they're exploring and trying to figure out who they are, then you get a chance to really kind of inform who they're going to become. And then they'll make their own choices, because otherwise they're going to be a formless block.
For any performance, I highly encourage you to challenge yourself too, to like, with your performers, to stay in character even when you break.
Yeah.
And so if somebody breaks and they're like, dude, I can't deal with this right now, still be the shopkeep being like, I don't understand you. This is a simple transaction. And I found that if you kind of like, if you can do it, first off, it provides you some light, like fun moments, but also sometimes it can really help to be like, okay, you know what? I'm in here. I'm in the space. Yep. So yeah, hopefully those are helpful tips.
I really like to kind of a session 0 thing of like having my characters build connections with each other, so they have like a little bit of like an emotional base to be like, this is why I care about the group I'm with, and like so then that's like why like I have emotions about what's going on.
I care about mushrooms because they saved my family. Yeah.
No reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big advocate of backstory of, and I finally found a spot to put this in, finding given circumstances for your character. Figure out the who, what, why, when, where of them being here. Establish like where they came from, where they grew up, did they move, what do they look like, how does that affect how they interact with other people, is there something that they are self-conscious about. Even in our lives, what we think is an arbitrary decision is not. You just picking out blue curtains, it's just like, it means it's something that you don't care about. You might have been drawn to blue subconsciously for some reason. Figuring out the who, what, why, and where then informs your character later on. You've now established what they can do, what they can't do, what they want to do. Whenever you're researching for a character, you're also researching the climate around them, kind of physical climate, like, it's sunny out. No, like the political climate, what country are they in, what are their beliefs there, really getting into what that period is. I have full sheets that I give my students that is asking where this is taking place, who is involved, how are they affecting each other. I wouldn't recommend giving your players a worksheet, but just, I love paper though. But being sure you are asking them questions. They don't need to come in with like a binder full of backstory. That's great, I love that. But just like, maybe like, what's a story from this character's childhood? What's like something, and then you can start like pulling into that, and then once they start getting into the mindset of answering these questions, it's going to start flowing a lot easier.
Yeah. I actually have a real world example real quick, and then we can do more questions.
Yeah.
That involves this man. We were playing an offline campaign because it's good to have offline campaigns. And Taffy had been a few years since Taffy played D&D, and so I helped him build his character, Onyx the Warlock. And started at level 1, Taffy's kind of getting his feet back on there and figuring out, okay, this is how you do things, that kind of stuff. And I noticed he was having a little bit of trouble getting in character. And then we get to level 3, and I've given him an imp familiar. And you went nuts with that thing.
I love that imp.
Give them a toy. And he loved that imp. That imp was maniacal.
Yeah, oh yeah. I love that, dude. I'm a grown ass man. I'll sit up here and do that voice all day. I love that imp. Oh my god.
Say something in that voice.
It was funny because I would say it in imp, and then I would have to translate because nobody at the
Yeah.
spoke imp. So I'd sit there and just make a little grumbling. And then no one as the GM has to stop and go, what did he say? Hold on. And then I get to translate. I love that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're gonna go right here.
That's fun.
So something that really stood out to me is like a lot of that comes like it's really stood out in the fate system.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of curious because like that exact thing, one of the things that they had in the thing was like have all of your players write out a paragraph and then pass it to the right, and then the next person has to write a paragraph about how they met the previous person.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious, like, if you all had actually like dropped data or like had ideas that came from that too.
I've run a ton of.
Repeat the question.
Sorry, Fate system has a really cool character building concept, right? Where you're creating your characters with your party so that you guys are creating your relationships real time at the beginning of the game, so you kind of have a dynamic that you're operating in. And so the question is, how do we feel about Fate? How do we feel about other systems, et cetera, that create that kind of dynamic? I always tell people to get away from, not because I don't like Dungeons and Dragons, but because there's so many cool systems out there that do so many different things really, really well. And so it burn through them because there's so many things to steal from those different systems that are so well done. I know there's a horror one called 11 Candles. I don't highly recommend it for everybody. It is very horror themed and you will die. That's part of the whole game. But one of the coolest things about that game system is at the very beginning, it doesn't give you any inputs except, hey, write down your strengths and a weakness and a time that you hope that you can overcome and a time that you will fold. And then you write those things, and then it goes, okay, put those in the middle, those are going to other players. And you do this, and then the GM inserts some as well that they have decided will, and so you don't know exactly how they spread out or things. There's so many systems that have all these really cool ways to create these character dynamics. Just, there's churn throughout. And you can message me anytime. Because we're really lucky. We get some promotional copies on 80 tabletop games and stuff like that. So if you're ever looking for one, just throw me a message. I'll throw you something. Well, I won't give you the thing because please pay content creators for their stuff.
He'll throw you some ideas from the book.
Yes.
Cool. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Let's go. Rapid fire. We got one here. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're first starting out performing, trying out for a lot of things and not getting a good I want to know how you deal with the rejection.
How do you deal with rejection when you start out?
I cry.
You keep going because here's the deal. When you first start auditioning, when you first start getting started in whatever you're doing, you're going to fail 100 times before you get one good thing. And you might be the exception to the rule. You might nail it the first time. But you're going to fail 100 times, and then you're going to get that one thing, and you're going to think, man, I got it. You're going to fail 100 more. And you're going to keep failing until you don't fail anymore. And then you'll still keep failing. So.
My frame thing was during auditions when I was living in Philadelphia. was I got so tired of the anxiety of auditioning that I just went in and kind of Jedi mind tricked myself and just went in and said, I've already lost it, so go have fun.
Yeah.
And so I went into every audition assuming I was not gonna get the part. And that meant that the last time I got cast in Philadelphia, I was at a group cattle call. And I went in there with like a Subway sandwich and was sitting in the waiting room eating because I was hungry. I was like, why not?
Yeah.
So I was sitting there eating while other people were like soft crying into their hands. And then I went in and I did my thing and I was like, man, I am free and easy. Like I was having a really good time. And I walked out and I was like, oh, big dummy, I forgot my backpack. And I was like, it's up on the stage. And I like previously me would have been freaking out. I was like, I'm gonna look so unprofessional. I walked back in there and said, I don't feel like I showed you guys my best stuff, so I'm here to do 2 more monologues. And they all froze and I went, I'm just fucking with you, I left my backpack behind. So I grabbed my backpack and left, I got cast in A Few Good Men.
Yeah.
The play.
Yeah.
I would say a big thing in theater is sometimes you don't get cast for a role because you are not right for it.
Yeah.
It is not that you are not talented. It's not that you didn't have like the chutzpah or whatever. It's just you didn't quite mesh into that role that the director is like seeing for that role, or you don't quite have the chemistry with this certain person. It is not always you. I would say make sure that whenever you are auditioning for a role, you are researching it first. You know what they're looking for. Maybe research the director, figure out what they have wanted in the past, and make sure that it is worth your time to be auditioning for it. And if it's not, move on to the next thing. You can also identify like what you felt was weak there and work on it. Also, don't feel nervous to talk to the director or whomever. Don't be like, why didn't I get the role? Just like, hey, I really do want to work with you. What can I do to improve, or what can we collaborate on later on down the line?
That is another good example of the people on the other side of the table are rooting for you.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, speedrun failure. We're out of time. We're gonna do a quick like, hey, here's who we are and where to find us. If you have other questions, please reach out. All of us are super accessible digitally and in person here at MAGFest 2023. So we'll do the thing.
I'm McLaffy Taffy on all the social portals that matter. I stream 5 days a week. I've got other irons in the fire now, but that's my bread and butter. It's playing right now. It's Noida. And whatever chat pays me to play, which in the afternoon right now is nice to be able to public too.
Yeah, come hang out in chat. I'm my lawyer friend on Twitch, TikTok, and Twitter. You can hit me up on Twitter, or you can also find my email on my Twitter bio as well. But what I want everyone to do real quick is pull out your phones and go to your podcast app.
Call to action.
Yeah. Call to action, everybody. Go to your podcast app and find Forgotten Paths Podcast. And go ahead and just download the first 2, 6.
God, you're shameless.
Yeah. The Forgotten Paths Podcast.
Call to action, and you will learn it in stage.
Yeah. Thank you.
I heard episodes 41 to 45 are crazy.
I actually heard that today.
I threw up after those episodes. Quote me.
I am Liz. I'm Liz on Art on Instagram. You can also check out my art at the Goblins and Growlers booth in the vendor hall. I may or may not be there. One of these lovely people might be there. So yeah, that's where you can find me. I mean, you'll probably see the rest of your goblins. Yeah, you can say those.
But before me,
Hello, I'm Chapman. You can find me on the Quid Pro Roll podcast. So while you have those phones out, I need you to put in Quid Pro Roll and download. Just go wild a bit. Like, I mean, I know the service is weird, but let's bad here. So let's make it worse and just slam the servers right now.
Honestly, you can download. You don't have to listen.
Go to Quid Pro Roll Podcast and delete that
Bring 5
podcast.
stars.
Don't remake it.
You can find me at Instagram with one of birds, and I usually don't post stuff, but I sometimes do, and I'm there. And you can find me here for the rest of the weekend and say hi, because I'll probably hang out with you if you want to hang out.
Yeah, you'll have alcohol. Woo! Allegedly. My name's Alon. I'm at the Dungeon Meowster, raising money for cats and Dungeons and Dragons. I'm part of Goblins and Growlers, an inclusive community building through tabletop gaming collective out of Richmond, Virginia. If you want to do pick up and play, we are always creating pick up and play opportunities. You can learn more about that at our booth. Goblins and Growlers is in the vendor hall, and we've got all sorts of things, including beautiful art by Liz. And then also, that's it. I mean, superheroes and stuff, yeah, but that's awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.